The historic Anacostia neighborhood is continually changing with another modern makeover in the new 112-unit affordable housing apartment building that's being built across the street from the Anacostia Metro Station, and it has plans to be completed at the end of 2022. MRP Realty and Taylor Adams Associates are developing a 5-story mixed-use building right next to the Bethlehem Baptist Church at 2442 Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. The apartments will be for residents earning up to 50% of the area's median income, with the exception of 6 apartments as permanent supportive housing for households earning up to 30% of the area's median income. The building will include 24 one-bedrooms, 57 two-bedrooms, and 31 three-bedrooms. With a 2-minute walk to Metro's Green Line, amenities will include a business center, a second-floor courtyard, a fitness center, washers and dryers, a community room, and a 49 parking space garage on the ground floor. Now, this building sits beside the old Bethlehem Baptist Church, which has had its start in 1872. This church was a byproduct of the Macedonia Baptist Church, where the members of this post-Civil War era congregation decided to meet twice a month for their church services at the Douglas Hall, which was at the corner of Nichols Avenue and Howard Road. In 1876, the members bought a parcel of land diagonally across the street from Douglas Hall. They built their first church at 2458 Nichols Avenue. Mr. John Anderson, one of the charter members, helped with the land purchase and also with the construction. For the duration of the 1800s, Bethlehem Baptist Church has had 3 ministers: Reverend Henry Scott, Reverend Phillips, and Reverend Joseph Matthews. Now, if we're to start at the beginning of the Anacostia makeover, we'll have to start at the beginning of King Avenue, and that's at the Anacostia Gateway. We'll turn left from Good Hope Road to King Avenue and travel south. I'll tell you the history of a particular block on Nichols Avenue as told by journalist John Muller. The 2200 block of Nichols Avenue, now known as Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, seems like any other ordinary neighborhood city block, but this corner of Nichols Avenue and Morris Road is familiar to many Washingtonians. So now, let's go up the road. In 1905, James Conway, a merchant in Anacostia, bought a vacant lot at the corner of Nichols Avenue and Morris Road. The next year, Conway applied for a building permit to build a 2-story structure, a grocery store below, and housing above with a shed in the back. For a number of years, Conway and his family ran a business and lived on the property. In the mid-1920s, the grocery store came under new management, but unfortunately, in April 1946, a tragic death happened. The neighborhood at Nichols Avenue and Morris Road Southeast was piecing together the evidence which might explain the death yesterday of its popular grocer, Jacob Dennenberg, read the Evening Star on April 17th. The paper continued to say, for the past 21 years, Mr. Dennenberg had described as mustached and goateed, had run a popular store. Across the street from the police station, officers looked to him for their midnight lunches. In and out foot traffic was constant. Tales of neighborhood life were told in his store year after year. The store was a community place and the proprietor knew everyone. 1 month before, Dennenberg had sold his store. He erected a sign letting locals know that the grocery would be torn down and a theater built in its place. There was comfort in knowing that Dennenberg had planned to find a nearby building and reopen. However, inquiries within recent days brought from Mr. Dennenberg the opinion that good locations were hard to find. He was reportedly in bad spirits, thinking he had sold the store too low, and was seen leaving a hardware store with a length of window sash rope in his hand. Shortly thereafter, his wife found his body dangling on the first floor of the store building. He was 50 years old. For an unknown reason, the theater was never built. Later that fall, Baby's Butler Service opened. The short-lived business took out a large newspaper ad promising to deliver baby food and supplies right to your door once each week. But before the close of the decade, the property was once again a market. The beginning of Big K Liquors began on September 30th, 1964. Isidore and Gertrude Kushner applied for a license from the D.C. Alcoholic Beverage Control Board to operate a wine and liquor store at 2252 Nichols Avenue. The Kushners were a well-known family in the area, and one of their sons was a star football player at Anacostia High School that same year. The Big K Liquor Store for more than 60 years will become as well known by Washingtonians as the landmark of Anacostia as the Big Chair landmark made by the Curtis Brothers Furniture Store. It's not clear when the brick wall of the liquor store was baptized with the large Big K painted on its side, but assumptions suggest that it may have appeared in the mid-1960s. From a variety of sources, Big K served as a neighborhood check cashing business with long lines normally forming on Friday because that was payday. In order to cash your check, you had to spend a certain amount of money from your check on beer and wine. Gertrude was well known by young children and daily drinkers as Dirty Gertie for her habit of shortchanging the customers. By the late 1980s, the Kushners leveraged their liquor store and the 3 adjacent properties for an $80,000 loan from Riggs National Bank just to stay afloat. In the early 2000s, times were tough for the Kushners. The 3 residential properties and the liquor store were in such a state of neglect and squalor, the city pursued legal action. Under Mayor Fenty, the Big K lot was purchased by the Department of Housing and Community Development for an amount just short of $1 million in 2010. In 2012, the oldest house was torn down. In 2013, plans for disposition of the properties were given to the Chapman Development Company for just $1. In early 2017, the 2 remaining historic homes were relocated, and in March, the Big K was finally torn down. Now that corner of King Avenue and Morris Road has developed into a 5-story building and has transformed the residential and retail elements of the old neighborhood. One side of King Avenue has extremely changed the look from row houses and small storefronts to a large urban business district. Now let's move from the 2200 block of King Avenue back down towards the metro in the 2400 block, where we started from when we was looking at the new apartment building. As we travel back down the street, you can notice the mixture of the old and the new. With all the upgrades now happening, are we still going to be able to call the old historic Anacostia historic? There's lots of construction in the area that mainly consisted of attached and semi-detached houses in this area. But there's new housing, there's new jobs, and now more ethnic groups are moving in. What's your opinion? Is historic Anacostia changing for the better for its current residents or for the new ones? Let me know in the comments section about how you feel about the changes happening in Southeast DC. And I want to give thanks to everyone who giving me suggestions on what new part of town to go to. I'm going there now. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm Dickie D in DC, and I will see you in the next video.